Hello, writers. Welcome back to the writers' room. And as you can see, we're doing a little bit different setup today. It is Halloween week. Halloween is coming up if you're watching this right when it airs. And I love fall. I love October. I love Halloween. I love all the whole the crazy decorations that people put up, especially here in Chicago. People go crazy. It's like an explosion of skeletons and pumpkins and witches and orange and purple lights, and it's fabulous. So I wanted to do a special writer's room next to the fire because I love fires and being cozy when it's like this. And I'm going to offer a prompt for this week that even if you don't love Halloween or scary stories or any of that ritual that comes along with it, that might be a really fun thing to try. And it's one that I'm going to do along with you this week. So many of us grew up learning about urban myths, and we heard ghost stories, or you went camping and someone held a flashlight under their face, or in the basement at a sleepover and told a scary story. And there's sort of this dozen or so that go around that many of us grew up hearing. And I was mesmerized by these stories and was always the kid at the slumber party. Many of you know this story. I was actually banned for a little while from slumber parties because I would get so into telling the ghost stories, and my friends would ask for them, but then they'd get really scared and like at midnight make the parents of the host family call their parents and go home. And so I had to really regain trust, and I was banned from telling stories for a while. But now I'm grown up and I can write as much scary stories as I want. And as many of you know, my one of my upcoming books is a collection of modern feminist ghost stories. So something that's really exciting to me to play with. Again, even if this is not a genre that speaks to you, and even if you write nonfiction, I want us to think about a prompt this week can just stimulate your creativity. And the prompt is this. I've shared this with some of you in live workshops before. Take an urban legend or a ghost story that you grew up hearing and reinvent it. And I'm going to give you a couple ways to do that. So, for example, most of the time when we're telling a ghost story, we just tell the story. It's whether it's the man with the hook who escaped from the insane asylum and interrupts the teenagers who are making out, or it's the babysitter, the call is coming from inside the house, or it's the golden arm and the sister that stole the golden arm off the dead sister's bodies. The dead sister's ghost is coming back to avenge this robbery that took place, right? So there's these classic stories. So you can pick one and you can completely reinvent it. So first of all, you could set a ghost story that's a bit dated, like the Legend of Sleepy Hollow feels very much of its time in the, I believe early 1900s. So you could set that in 2022. You could set it in 2085 on Mars. So you could take the existing exact sort of narrative structure and put it somewhere else. People do this with Shakespeare so beautifully, right? Like they take something that was set in Padua or Verona and put it in South America, like the Romeo and Juliet version that came out a while back. So you can reset, so setting is one way to reinvent the ghost story. You put the same narrative structure in a different time and place, and it's going to make it new by the very nature of, the story with the person with the hook. Usually I always feel like it's a very 1950s kind of vibe. That's how I picture it. So if you set that in the future, or you set that in the Middle East, or you set that in, it feels like 1950s America. So you set that in, 2085 Ireland, it's going to be different. So setting is one way. Another way to make a story new is to flip the protagonist. Like, so for instance, those of you that saw the musical Wicked, we always think of the Wicked Witch as the villain of the Wizard of Oz, but in that narrative structure, the villain became the hero, right? She became the protagonist of the story. So the person with the hook can become your your narrator with complete pathos. So we've misunderstood this poor person that was put, maybe they were wrongly imprisoned in this insane asylum by a gaslighting husband, and they were just trying to get whatever. I mean, you can have so flip your antagonist protagonist. There's many, but I'm just going to give you three. The third way is to do a mashup of the original story and a new theme. So this is the one that I like playing with the most. So you could take a classic ghost story or urban legend, and and make it about something much deeper, meaning instead of it just being the babysitter and the call coming from inside the house, it could be about a societal like satire of suburban parents who like don't protect their kids and are just out at some, party getting drunk. It could be that there you want to take, so think of lenses that you might want to look through. So it could be a feminist lens. That's what I've done in a lot of my ghost stories, taken very classic, maybe more patriarchal stories and flipped them so that the protagonists are women exploring themes of women's empowerment, healing from trauma that they've experienced as a woman, all that kind of thing. You could have it be about child's rights. You could have it be about racism, right? You could take a classic ghost story that's not really dealing with race, and you could absolutely take on racism through the lens of the ghost story. What's fun about the mashup is that there's already a known structure, some tropes that the reader's expecting, and then you can delve in to something very powerful and unexpected that the reader isn't imagining the story will be about. So I'm going to read the story that I'm going to play with this week, the very quick little blurb of it. And then this is the one I'm going to reinvent. And you can choose one of your own, or you can do this one as your prompt, whatever you want, and we'll do it together. Okay. So this is The Girl Who Stood on a Grave. Anyone heard this? If you knew the Alan Schwartz Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, you might know this one. So basically the deal is with this story is that a couple of friends are at a party one night, and a group of boys tell a girl that if you stand on a grave, the dead person inside will reach up and grab you and kill you. And the girl says, that's ridiculous. That's a silly story. I don't believe in that at all. And they say, fine, prove it. Go to the cemetery on, 5th and Maple, pick a grave, stand on it, and then here, take this knife and put it in the ground so we know which grave you stood on. And, if you live, you'll come back to tell us, that we were wrong. So the girl says, fine, takes the knife, walks off to the graveyard, picks a grave, looks around, puts the knife in the ground and starts to leave. But something is tugging at her. And suddenly she's seized with terror, like, oh my gosh, it was true. And this body is coming up out of the ground, and she has a heart attack and dies of fright. And when people find her the next morning, they find that she had accidentally put the knife through her skirt, and it was just her own knife that was kind of holding her back. So that's the story. It has so much potential in my mind. First of all, why is it the boys that were like challenging this girl? Why did she die so quickly? Like, instead of turning around, at least seeing if this was an actual ghost, or if it was, just, there's so many questions, right? And so we could take a feminist lens, we could take a societal satire lens, you could take a comedic lens, you could not have the story end. The story could, maybe the girl faked it and she isn't dead, or maybe she did die, and then the rest of the story is spent hunting those little jerks down and making their lives miserable and causing all kinds of mayhem. So many possibilities. So that is your assignment this week in honor of Halloween. Take an urban legend or an existing ghost story and try one or more of these reinventing techniques. A new setting, time and place, swap the protagonist, antagonist, or mash up the original story with a deeper theme that you're interested in exploring. I cannot wait to see what you create. Maybe we all will find a time to get together around the fireplace and read our favorites, but please feel free to send them to us if you write one this week. And I can't wait to see you in the next writer's room.